It's a small world after all, literally. Imagine waking up one day to find that Earth had shrunk to the size of Pluto. No more vast continents, no sprawling oceans, and definitely no personal space. In this bizarre alternate reality, everything we take for granted, gravity, air pressure, and even how we interact with our moon, would change dramatically. So what would life be like if our beloved planet was no bigger than this distant dwarf world? Buckle up, because things are about to get uncomfortably cramped. Pluto, the underdog of the solar system. Before we dive into this miniature Earth, let's talk about Pluto for a second. Sitting on the icy outskirts of our solar system, just beyond Neptune's orbit, Pluto once held the title of the ninth planet. But in 2006, scientists gave it the celestial pink slip, reclassifying it as a dwarf planet. Why? Because it just wasn't big enough to dominate its own orbit. With a diameter only 2/3 the size of our moon, Pluto is tiny by planetary standards. But what if Earth suddenly found itself in the same small boat? Let's break down the consequences. The ultimate squeeze: where would 8 billion people fit? First things first, how would all 8 billion of us squeeze onto an Earth no larger than Pluto? Well, it wouldn't be impossible, just incredibly uncomfortable. Our new surface area would be roughly the size of Russia. Sounds manageable, right? Not so fast. Remember, over 70% of Earth is covered by oceans, so the actual land available would be even smaller. And once you factor in deserts, mountains, and other uninhabitable regions, the space gets tighter than a rush-hour subway in Tokyo. To put it in perspective, each person would get an area roughly the size of 1.5 tennis courts. That might sound like enough, but once you add in essential infrastructure like hospitals, airports, and roads, things start feeling very claustrophobic. Personal space? Forget it. You'll be lucky if your neighbor isn't standing on your foot 24/7. Superhuman jumps and slip and slides. On a Pluto-sized Earth, gravity would take a serious hit, literally. A weaker gravitational pull means you'd be able to jump nearly 25 feet into the air. That's right, you could dunk a basketball without even trying. Better yet, your hang time would be insane, with each leap lasting up to 10 seconds. Ever wanted to experience slow motion in real life? Well, here's your chance. But there's a catch. Less gravity means less traction. That morning jog? More like an uncontrollable slip and slide session. Running would be easier, sure, but stopping? Not so much. A sudden sprint could send you gliding across the surface like a hockey puck. And let's not forget the dangers of falling. Since gravity would struggle to pull you back down quickly, tripping over a rock could turn into a long, slow-motion descent straight out of a comedy sketch. Thin air and constant gasping. If gravity takes a hit, so does our atmosphere. With weaker gravity, Earth's ability to hold onto its air would be compromised. Everywhere you go would feel like standing atop a 5,000-meter-high mountain. That's the kind of altitude where people start carrying oxygen tanks. Breathing would be a constant struggle. At best, you'd feel dizzy and lightheaded. At worst, well, let's just say a lot of people wouldn't make it. High-altitude sickness would be an everyday problem, making even the simplest activities a workout. Imagine getting winded just standing up. Over time, human bodies might try to adapt, but evolution isn't exactly a quick fix. Cities at lower altitudes would become prime real estate, while highlands and mountains would turn into unlivable zones. Oxygen bars and pressurized living spaces could become the new normal, just to keep people from passing out. Goodbye, oceans, hello, cosmic radiation. And here's where things take a really dark turn. In 2019, Harvard researchers found that a planet needs to be at least 2.7% of Earth's mass to retain liquid water. Our Pluto-sized Earth? Not even close. Without enough gravity to hold onto its oceans, all of Earth's water would evaporate into space. Rivers, lakes, and entire seas would be gone, leaving behind a dry, lifeless wasteland. And if that wasn't bad enough, our molten core, the engine behind Earth's protective magnetic field, would also be much weaker. Without it, the sun's radiation would fry us. Every day would feel like stepping into a giant microwave, with deadly cosmic rays bombarding the surface. Sunscreen? Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. With no atmosphere to shield us, temperatures would swing between scorching heat and freezing cold within hours. The sky would turn pitch black, revealing an unfiltered view of the cosmos, beautiful yet terrifying. Any remaining life, if it even existed, would have to burrow underground, hiding from the relentless cosmic assault. And as Earth drifts further from its former self, it would become just another frozen rock in the void, silent, barren, and forgotten. The Moon's creepy stare. Pluto's largest moon, Charon, doesn't orbit the dwarf planet in a traditional sense. Instead, the two are tidally locked, meaning they always show the same face to each other. If Earth were Pluto-sized, our moon would follow suit. Imagine looking up at the night sky and seeing the moon permanently fixed in one spot, never moving. It would be eerie, like living in a cosmic staring contest. And speaking of the moon, its gravitational influence would be way stronger. Expect some seriously weird tides if there were any water left to have tides. This gravitational lock would reshape how we perceive time, with the moon acting as a motionless sentinel in the sky. Nighttime navigation, once guided by the moon's shifting phases, would become obsolete. The psychological effects of an unmoving celestial object looming overhead could be profound, altering everything from folklore to our sense of connection with the cosmos. The disaster of an instant shrink. Now let's say instead of being born small, Earth suddenly shrunk to Pluto's size. Would that be any better? Nope. In fact, it would be way worse. If Earth suddenly shrank but kept its mass, our surface gravity would skyrocket up to 30 times what we experience now. Every move would require superhuman effort. The simple act of lifting your arm? That's now the equivalent of bench pressing a small car. If you weighed 75 kilogram, 165 pound before, congratulations, you now weigh 2,300 kilograms, 5,000 pound. And while intense training can help people adapt to 4 times Earth's gravity, anything beyond 10 times would be lethal. Our bones and muscles simply aren't built for that kind of pressure. It would be a crushing, suffocating nightmare. Breathing alone would feel like pushing against an invisible wall of lead. Blood circulation would slow, making even the healthiest heart struggle to keep up. And worst of all, buildings and infrastructure wouldn't withstand the immense stress, collapsing like paper under the weight of this newfound gravity. The end of life as we know it. A Pluto-sized Earth would be a death sentence for most forms of life. With weak gravity, low oxygen, no oceans, and deadly solar radiation, survival would be near impossible. The few who could adapt would likely have to live underground, shielded from the sun's deadly rays. But hey, at least earthquakes and volcanoes would be a thing of the past. Since tectonic plates rely on a molten core to shift and move, Earth's crust would become completely solid. No more eruptions, no more quakes. Just an endless, barren landscape. Without a magnetic field to protect us, cosmic radiation would constantly bombard the surface, making even underground shelters risky. Plants would struggle to grow without a stable atmosphere, and the lack of liquid water would make sustaining any life nearly impossible. Eventually, Earth would become a frozen, lifeless rock drifting through space, a shadow of its former self. What's the alternative? So what if instead of shrinking, Earth grew? What if it were the size of Jupiter? Well, that's a whole different story, one filled with intense gravity, crushing pressures, and a much stronger atmosphere. The sky would be filled with massive storms, and simply walking would feel like carrying a mountain on your back. So there you have it. A terrifying glimpse into a Pluto-sized Earth where gravity is weak, oxygen is scarce, and life as we know it is pretty much impossible. If you enjoyed this wild ride through an alternate reality, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a mind-blowing science video like this.